Asidai of Sunday, 5th December 1971, strikes a somber note. It marks the beginning of the final funeral rites for the late Nana Otumfuo Agyeman Prempeh II. The doleful tocsin strains of the Odruja flute announce deep sense of loss. It is the evening of the warrior's Adai, and the young warrior keeps awake with the royal family, his palace musicians and functionaries. He is preparing himself to shoulder the strains and burdens of his office. Throughout the night, the wake is being kept in every stool house with intermittent firing of musketry by the Ankobia and the Mawere clans. The Asantehene must reflect in his person the collective feelings of his people. He must be calm and bear his sorrows with dignity and fortitude. Next day, the Asante warriors and mourners sing war songs as they march with their commanders to pay their last respects to their commander-in-chief, the late Asantehene, Nana Otumfuo Agyeman Prempeh II. Nana Otumfuo Opoku Ware II appears in the Batekelkesi, the royal ceremonial battle dress, to be acclaimed as the new commander-in-chief. Preceded by another symbol of his office, a stool, he joins the procession. Riding in the royal palanquin and flanked by courtiers and attendants, Nana Opoku Ware leads his armies in the symbolic warrior dance, the Phantom from Atopletia. On foot are the household guards, the Otumfuo, in their ceremonial dress. Among the chiefs in the procession is the Nsumankwahene, to see that no evil or ill luck shall mar the solemn ceremonies. Earlier, he had prophesied fair weather throughout the period of national mourning. In his feathered cap is the bearer of the Mpomponsuo state sword, the Excalibur of the Asante kings. And still, the mourners come in ever-growing numbers. And the Mampohene, who has had to supervise the earlier burial arrangements and the enstoolment of Nana Opoku Ware II, leads his people to the site for the gun salute. Nana Opoku Ware salutes and bids Nana Prempeh a last farewell. next day, paramount chiefs, divisional chiefs, attendants, court officials, and distinguished guests from all over Ghana continue to flock to the Dwebrim, the scene of the customary rites where the Asantehene, riding in state, will sit, distribute drinks, and receive words of condolence and donations. Led by the shield bearers with the fascinating shield dance, the lady members of the royal family have come to greet and comfort the Asantehene. With them is the mother of the nation, the Queen Mother of Asante, in deep mourning. Clad in the company mourning cloth and symbolic family fronds, the Asantehene sits in state to receive sympathizers who have come to mourn with him. These include representatives of the houses of chiefs, wing chiefs, and commanders and occupants of princely stools, like the Chidomhene, the commander of the rear army, and Nana Mampohene, the occupant of the silver stool, is also there to pay homage. Some have come to express their feelings of sorrow and sympathy to the music of the Kete and Adwa drums in symbolic gesture movements and miming, counseling the Asantehene to show fortitude in his bereavement. As an expression of traditional friendship, the Yana has sent a special delegation of chiefs and dancers and a lady musketeer. A young girl leading the Adoswa procession, bearing gifts and displaying wealth, delivers a message from the Asantehene's wife in dance language. You are not alone. I share your sorrows. Be strong to support me, she says, as she hangs the Arisiado necklace round the Asantehene's neck. The Asantehene's cousin-in-law sends a full retinue of Adoswa maids in waiting, and the Adoswa Hima, the Adoswa Queen, with a similar procession to exhibit her traditional burial articles to the rhythms of the royal Kete drums. fast is broken, and members of the royal family purify themselves by shaving off their hair and paring their nails. These are collected and deposited in the Ebuchiakrua, the funeral urn, as a sign of love, solidarity, and continuity of the life cycle. Amidst drumming and firing of musketry, the Prempeh, the chief of the people who hold the secret of the royal household, the stool carriers and the Banchmahin return from a secret grove with the consecrated stool of the late Sir Agyeman Prempeh II to be added to the stools of his predecessors in the Stools Chapel. Throughout the previous night, the selected stool and the golden stool have been at an all-night vigil of ritual invocation for the spirit, Sunsum, of the late Asantehene to inhabit the stool as a shrine and a permanent memorial to his reign. The state mourning is over. The funeral urn has been deposited in the chapel at Bremen Mausoleum, and the path has been closed to death. A new reign has begun. The young tree which replaced the old has withstood the first stresses of its young life. From now, the new Asantehene, Nana Opoku Ware, may wear jewelry with members of the royal family. The late Otumfuo Ware II has been born in the spirit world, and victory has been won over death. Guests, chiefs, and people from many regions and all walks of life come to greet and congratulate the Asantehene and to bid him farewell. He is all smiles now as he moves to the Stool Chapel to commune with his predecessors. He carries a musket as the new defender and leader of his people. With the Atumpan drummers all hail him as the new moon.
To the Asantehene, the king never dies, for the event of a king's death is taken as a re-entry to the ancestral and is announced only in circumlocutions, even on the talking drums. The nation will nonetheless weep and wail to express its grief until a new monarch ascends the golden stool. A monarch who, in the traditional imagery, will restore to his people the shelter of their king's umbrella and thus save them from being scourged to death by the sun. So, as they pay their last respects to their king and master, these hornblowers are also hopeful that soon they will adulate another descendant of Osei and Opoku and recount to him the history of the nation. To locate another eagle for the nation is the constitutional duty of the Queen Mother, now the regent. The process of nomination may appear smooth and easy, but there are always heirs to choose from, and rival claims for accession to the golden stool are made behind the scenes. The kingmakers of the royal household, that is, the occupants of the Jesse and Kobia and Manwere stools, may have to face an uphill task to come to a conclusion. After reaching a unanimous decision, the kingmakers will communicate to the Queen Mother that they pronounce her nominee free from such serious diseases as leprosy, epilepsy, blindness, and sterility. Besides, he is not given to drunkenness, gambling, fornication, and haughtiness. But that does not end the nomination. Same physical and moral analyses are done by yet another body, the Kumasi State Council. Under the leadership of the principal right-wing chief of Kumasi, the Bantamahini, the councillors will decide whether they accept or reject the first nominated heir. And what conclusion will they reach? Yes or no? It is yes. It is concerted yes for Berema Opoku, the nominee. For him, the twilight of suspense has broken away, and with the Queen Mother, he can now shed tears of joy for his late uncle's gun to be given to him, and for the golden stool. The grove of the historic priests, Otumfuo Ware II, at Agona in Ashanti, being visited today on the occasion of the making of a new king, takes us back to history. How and when the Ashanti nation and the golden stool came into being. Until the end of the 17th century, Kumasi was a subject state of the Denjira nation, to whose king it sent gold, dust, and wives annually as tribute. With the help and wise counsel of the priest Anochi, the great ancestor chief of Agona, Kumasi was determined to break and cast off the yoke of service. First, Kumasi formed a loose union with nearby states. When sufficient strength had been mobilized through unity, hatred for the common enemy inspired King and the other chiefs of the union to battle it out with Denjira. This was the famous battle fought at Feyasi near Kumasi in about 1701. The Denjiras were vanquished. Entim Jakeri, the king of the Denjiras, was captured and beheaded. Some of the weapons used to silence Dinchira in the Battle of Iyasi have been kept as museum pieces in the priest Enochi's grove at Agona. The Ashanti nation, like this stone in front of the house of the celebrated priest Enochi, has been able to weather centuries of storms because of the one main visible symbol of unity, the golden stool. The paramount sacredness of the golden stool was demonstrated in 1896 by Ashanti's submission to the deportation of their king, Prempeh I, by the colonial government. Rather than resort to war, in which they feared they might risk the loss of the golden stool, they allowed the loss of their king by exile to the Seychelles. Before King Prempeh I was sent to the Seychelles, he and his attendants, including his parents, were kept at the Elmina Castle. It was achieved. Now in suit on his arrival at Sekondi in November 1924, he was received at the Deba by the then governor, Gagisberg. Today, the links of history continue to chain together as time moves on, with Berima Kweku Edusei, the successful nominee to the Golden Stool of Ashanti. After a period of confinement following his nomination, the king-elect now emerges for a public introduction. On this occasion, the king-elect will also take the oath of his high office before the elders of the Kumasi state. To the people, indeed to the whole kingdom, Nana Opoku is coming to supply a vital spiritual link with the ancestors, a link which has been missing since the departure of Otumfuo Ware Agyeman Prempeh II for the spirit world. The ceremony of public introduction and the taking of the oath of office together constitute one of the important procedural and constitutional requirements that the king-elect has to fulfill before he can ascend the golden stool. Then, with Pomponsyo's state sword in hand and facing the Queen Mother, he swears, "I am a descendant of Osei and Opoku, of Bunsu and Agyeman. I am a direct nephew of Prempeh. Today, the soul of Agyeman Prempeh has gone whence it came, and his gun lies idle. By your grace, and by the grace of the people of Kumasi, you have presented the gun to me. If I do not protect and govern you well, as did my forebears, I swear the great oath." So swears the king-elect that he shall give the kingdom a good government. Let us rejoice. Let us raise cheers of congratulations to our new monarch, Berima Kweku Edusei, as at this hour he assumes a new name, Otumfuo Ware II of Ashanti. The sounds of drums join the voices of the people in raising shouts of thanksgiving to God Almighty and to the ancestors for their goodwill. And for being installed as their ruler today, the new king expresses his sincere gratitude to the chiefs and people. But to the clan chiefs of Kumasi and to the component states who are represented at this function by their spokesman, the king will also present appropriate sums of money as laid down by the Ashanti Constitution. On the following day, the monarch is introduced to the Manshia Palace, the Himfie. Here, the elders of Kumasi come and pay their respects to him and to wish him well. Although he can now sit in council or court as a ruler, the new monarch is not expected to hold an opinion of his own until the enstoolment or formal accession to the golden stool. During this period, he is schooled in the structure and organization of the palace. He is told about rites relating to the golden stool and the black stools, in addition to an introduction to the stool house itself. The elders of Kumasi take this opportunity to visit him and offer advice on matters of importance to the kingdom and on statecraft. Throughout the constitutional processes enacted in the making of the new king, the state drums, including this one, have also been actively involved. But today, another memorial is being raised to the late king. For it is 40 days ago when Otumfuo Agyeman, the new monarch's predecessor and maternal uncle, set out on his journey to the spirit world. Monarch, or an ordinary individual for that matter, passes away. Funeral rites are performed on the 8th day, then on the to lead the nation in the 40th day celebrations. In honor of his predecessor, his installation has to be timely. So today, Nana Opoku Ware II, the clan chiefs of Kumasi, is an act of honor, to do honor to the departed. Funeral rites may help to separate the dead from the living. But on such occasions, the dead, the ancestors, and together in according honor to the departed king. The link between the ancestors and the living, the new king. And in the performance today, the state drums join up to console him. They join up to express their sincere and profound sympathy with him. They are also pealing out to inspire him, their king and master. To the late king, a memorial which is symbolized by the celebrations. Ceremony begins, the firing of musketry. This brings together the paramount chiefs of the component states, the Asantehene, the divisional chiefs from the various states, and the people. Literally speaking, the whole kingdom assembles together to enable the Asantehene designate to demonstrate his ability to lead Asantehene, the Ashanti nation. The Asantehene, as the king of the Ashanti nation, is expected to fulfill different parts and functions. A constitutional head, a religious head, and a chief warrior, all rolled into one. In the olden days, as the chief warrior, the Asantehene was a grand captain, by whose leadership and prowess the nation marched victoriously through theaters of war. And so the clan chiefs of Kumasi today are closely identifying themselves here with the making of their new king. They, as well as the other paramount chiefs of the kingdom, are looking forward pensively to the emergence of the Asantehene elect. He who is to show forth the ancient martial spirit that animated King Osei Tutu, the great ancestor in the creation and consolidation of the Ashanti nation. As the grand captain of his chiefs and people, Nana Opoku Ware II wears for this occasion the grand military tunic of his forebears, the Batakari Kesia, The wearing of this grand tunic, which will again be worn when the Otumfuo is celebrating the grand funeral of his immediate predecessor, adds up to the new king's capacity. His moral and spiritual capacity to command the Ashanti forces on the battlefield. Today, a practical demonstration of his ability in statecraft to be seen during his reign. Tradition demands that the Otumfuo should fire his gun 3 times, and to each fire, the Otumfuo's men-at-arms respond with a salvo. And the success of the Otumfuo's demonstration today is acknowledged by his next in command in the kingdom, the paramount chief of Mampong. It is in the little hours of the morning that the new king, Nana Opoku Ware II, sits in state outside the palace to receive pledges of allegiance from each of the 13 paramount chiefs of the kingdom. The paramount chiefs who, only a couple of hours earlier, had propped him up to ascend formally the golden stool of Ashanti. With the Impomponsom state sword, each of them takes the oath of allegiance to the new monarch. That in rain or shine, at noon or at night, except in circumstances of ill health, each will give a loyal response to the king's call and leadership. The paramount chief of the Agona state, he who occupies the priest Anochi's stool, Otumfuo Anochi, who helped to found the nation, and for which he created the golden stool, the paramount chief of Mampong, Nana Atakura Meniampong II, he who sits upon the silver stool of Ashanti. In the hierarchy of the Ashanti kingdom, Nana Mamponghene ranks next to the Asantehene. All the processes of king-making have been successfully performed. Nana Opoku Ware II comes out now as fully fledged king to meet his people, this time at a Thanksgiving Durbar. Songs of felicitation by the women in honor of the new king. Songs of praise and thanks to Chidiampong, the Almighty God. Otumfuo Ware II now sits in state to receive the congratulations and the goodwill of the chiefs and elders. Today, Nana Opoku Ware II has restored to his people the shelter of the king's umbrella, for he has become the father of the nation. As a constitutional head, the chiefs and people are looking up to him with confidence for a good government. They expect him to emulate the sterling qualities of his great predecessors, Osei and Opoku. From the royal lineage of the Yoko clan of Kumasi has emerged another Opoku Ware. The Yoko clan, one of the 7 main clans upon which the Ashanti family system is based. A system from which the institution of chieftaincy has sprung. Today, the drums have joined the voices of the people to raise echoes of felicitation across the kingdom. That Nana Opoku Ware has been able to make all the rungs in the constitutional ladder of king-making. His nomination, his election and installation, all culminating in the series of enstoolment ceremonies. Let the drums perform again and again for a king. Let the drums peal out for Nana Opoku Ware II, Otumfuo Ware, who at the age of 51 has risen from the legal profession. Otumfuo Ware II, who with a store of public experience behind him, has come to ascend the golden stool of Ashanti as the new king of his people. The people who have thus been saved from being scourged to death by the sun. For them and for the nation, another mighty eagle has been found.